My name is Jake Williams. I'm 32 years old, born and raised in a small rural town outside Macon, Georgia. If you asked me a year ago whether I had a problem with race, I would have said no. Hell, I would have looked you straight in the eye and said, I treat everyone the same. But that would have been a lie. Not because I hated anyone. Not because I ever called anyone a slur or waved a Confederate flag. No, it was quieter than that. More subtle. More dangerous, I think. I had this voice in the back of my head, shaped by years of growing up in a place where folks like us stuck to folks like us. A place where black people lived across the tracks and no one questioned why. A place where you learned not to trust what you didn't understand. I never thought much about it. Until my life burned down, literally. It all started the night I lost everything and was saved by someone I once wouldn't even talk to. The downfall. After my divorce, I was in a tailspin. Mandy, my ex-wife, left me after 4 years of marriage. Said I was too cold, too closed off. I told her she was being dramatic. But deep down, I knew she was right. I'd built walls so high, even I couldn't see over them. I'd been laid off from my job in construction 2 months earlier. The company folded. No warning. One day we were building custom homes. The next we were out on the street with a box of tools and a severance check that wouldn't cover half a month's rent. I couldn't afford to stay in my old place. So I moved into a rundown apartment complex in a rougher part of Atlanta. The kind of place where folks left their shoes outside the door and played loud music late into the night. Mostly black and Latino families. I was one of maybe 3 white tenants. And I hated it. Not because of anything anyone did to me. Just because I was uncomfortable. Afraid, even though I wouldn't have admitted it at the time. I didn't speak to anyone. I kept to myself. When I passed neighbors in the hallway, I gave tight nods or looked away. That included Angela, the woman I never noticed. Angela lived 2 doors down. I'd see her coming and going in navy blue scrubs, her hair tied up in a bun, always looking tired but focused. She didn't talk much, but she always held the door open if she saw you coming. I never said thank you. Just walked past. She was tall, maybe in her early 40s, with strong arms and kind eyes. But I didn't see that then. All I saw was someone I didn't know, someone I didn't want to know. I assumed things about her. That she probably had a bunch of kids. That she probably got government assistance. That maybe she had a boyfriend in jail. Ugly, unfair thoughts. I'm ashamed to admit them now. But I have to. Because this story isn't about looking good. It's about being honest. The fire. The night it happened, I was drunk. Not a little tipsy, I mean stumbling, slurring, piss-poor drunk. I'd spent my last few bucks on cheap whiskey at this dive bar down the street. I came home around 11 p.m., cooked some frozen food, then passed out on the couch without turning off the stove. Sometime around 2 a.m., I woke up coughing. Smoke was everywhere. Thick, black, suffocating smoke. The alarm was shrieking, and I couldn't see more than 2 feet in front of me. My head spun. I staggered toward the door but tripped over the coffee table. That's when I heard it, a voice. Strong. Commanding. Urgent. Jake, are you in there? How did she know my name? The door burst open, and Angela charged in, a wet towel over her face, yelling, "Get up. Now. Come on." She pulled me to my feet, or dragged me, more like. Wrapped a blanket over my head and hauled me down the stairs like I weighed nothing. Outside, I collapsed onto the sidewalk, gasping for air, my heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. But Angela didn't stop. She went back inside. The rescue. Flames were creeping up the 2nd floor by then. Other tenants were screaming. A woman was crying out that her baby was still inside. The hallway windows blew out from the heat. I watched in stunned horror as Angela, the woman I'd barely acknowledged, ran into the building again and again. She carried out Miss Gladys, the old lady with arthritis who lived below me. She helped out Maria, the single mom from apartment 2B, and her 2 boys. She even guided the dog from 1C out by its collar. I couldn't believe it. This woman, who owed us nothing, had saved 5 people, including me. And what had I done for her? Nothing. Worse than nothing. I had judged her every time I saw her. Every time I avoided eye contact. Every time I tightened my grip on my keys walking past. The awakening. The fire department arrived 20 minutes later. Too late to be the real heroes that night. Angela sat on the curb wrapped in a foil blanket, her face covered in soot, her hands trembling. When a medic asked if she had anyone to call, she just shook her head. I walked over, sat beside her, and said quietly, "You saved my life." She looked at me with those same calm eyes and said, "You're welcome." That was all. No lecture. No anger, no bitterness, just grace. And right there, in the middle of ashes, sirens, and smoke, something in me cracked open. I realized I had lived 32 years in a cage I built myself, a cage made of fear, ignorance, and pride. And Angela had kicked the damn door down. After the fire, everything moved fast, too fast for a man like me to keep up. The building was declared uninhabitable. The Red Cross set up a temporary shelter at a church gymnasium 6 blocks away. I had nothing but a burnt hoodie, smoke-drenched jeans, and the boots on my feet. I remember standing in line for bottled water and a toothbrush, my hands shaking, lungs still sore from the smoke. That's when I saw her again, Angela, sitting in a folding chair near the far wall, filling out paperwork for an elderly woman. She looked up and gave me a tired nod. Nothing more. No smile. No wave. I'd seen that look before, in nurses at ERs, tired mothers in grocery lines, women who had carried weight on their backs for years and didn't complain. But now, I saw more than just tired eyes. I saw dignity. Strength. I saw someone I didn't deserve to ignore. A step toward her. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on a cot in the far corner of the gym, staring up at fluorescent lights that never shut off. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the fire again. Smelled it. Felt it in my chest like acid. The next morning, I made a decision I never thought I'd make. I walked up to Angela. She was sitting alone on the steps outside the gym, sipping coffee from a paper cup. Mind if I sit? I asked. She looked up slowly, then nodded. We sat in silence for a bit. I didn't know how to start. What do you say to someone who saved your life when you wouldn't even say hello before? I owe you everything, I said finally. I mean it. You didn't have to. You could have let me burn. Angela gave a soft chuckle. You think I'd do that just 'cause you're an ass? That caught me off guard. Then she smiled. And I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. Angela's story. Over the next few days, I got to know Angela. Not the woman I thought she was. The real Angela. She was 41, divorced, no kids. Worked as a licensed practical nurse at a long-term care facility. She'd been working doubles for the past 3 months, ever since her sister got diagnosed with lupus and had to quit her job. I cover rent for both of us, she told me once, over coffee from the vending machine. Ain't got time to be tired. She wasn't on food stamps. She didn't have a boyfriend in jail. She wasn't angry at the world. She was just a woman trying to survive, to take care of her own, to keep moving forward when the world gave her every reason to fall back. And I felt ashamed. Not because she rubbed it in. She didn't. Not once. But because every assumption I'd ever made about people like her crumbled under the weight of her truth. Second chances. I tried to help in any way I could. When I found out her car had been damaged by falling debris during the fire, I spent 3 days helping her repair the radiator. She didn't ask, I offered. When she couldn't get off work to help her sister move, I rented a van and did it for her. Angela didn't say much about it. Just a quiet, thank you each time. But I could tell she was watching me, measuring me. Not to judge, but to see if I was serious. Truth is, I wasn't doing it to make up for anything. I wasn't trying to earn forgiveness. I just wanted to be better. One night, as we sat on the steps of the shelter, our new routine, I asked her something that had been on my mind since the fire. Why'd you come in after me? She paused, then said, because I saw your face. You looked like someone who gave up. I've seen that look too many times in my life. And I don't let people die in front of me, even if they wouldn't have done the same. The mirror. Angela became my mirror. Through her, I started to see myself, not just who I was, but who I'd become. A man hardened by disappointment, distrustful by default, closed off from the world because it felt safer that way. But Angela didn't have that luxury. She lived in a world that judged her every day for her skin, her income, her zip code, and she still chose to show up, to help, to risk her life. It made me realize how soft I'd been, how scared, and how little I understood strength until I saw it in her. One day, she handed me a flyer. Habitat for Humanity, Volunteer Day. You coming? She asked. I hesitated. Me? Volunteering? But then I thought about the apartment complex, about Miss Gladys, about Maria and her kids, about all the people Angela had helped that night, people I'd ignored for months. Yeah, I said. I'll be there. The fire inside. That was the day I realized the fire hadn't just destroyed my apartment. It had burned away my excuses, my ignorance, my silence. And in its place, something else was starting to grow. Not guilt, not charity, but purpose. It was a Saturday morning when I found myself standing outside a half-built frame of a two-bedroom home in the east side of town, hammer in hand, a Habitat for Humanity t-shirt clinging to my back in the August heat. Angela was already there, wearing her old work jeans, hair tied back, gloves on, moving 2x4s like she'd done this 100 times before. She looked at me, then the hammer in my hand, then raised a brow. "You sure you know which end of that thing hits the nail?" I smirked. "You downed me already?" She didn't answer, just handed me a bucket of nails and pointed toward the porch frame. Building something new. Volunteering sounded noble in theory, but that first hour was pure humiliation. I dropped wood, bent nails, hit my thumb twice. Sweat poured down my back and into my eyes. Meanwhile, Angela was up on the frame with another woman, laughing, hammering like she was born on a construction crew. That other woman was Susan, mid-50s, white, short gray hair under a wide-brimmed straw hat. She ran the volunteer group and kept everything moving like a military operation. When she learned I was new, she didn't sugarcoat it. "You mess up a measurement," she said, "I'll make you tear it out and start again. We don't hand people homes. We build them." Her tone was tough, but not cruel, and I respected that. She gave orders to everyone the same way: black, white, old, young. No soft spots, no favoritism. But not everyone on that side had her heart. The forklift incident. About halfway through the day, a guy named Travis showed up, tall, white, mid-30s, steel-toed boots, Confederate flag patch stitched on his tool belt. He didn't speak much, just grunted orders when he moved heavy equipment and cracked jokes behind people's backs. I didn't know what his problem was, but he made the air feel heavier. At one point, Angela was trying to lift a heavy door frame with another volunteer, a young Latino guy named Miguel. Travis walked by, looked at them, and said loud enough for the crew to hear, "Shame we can't get legal labor on these builds, huh? Be done twice as fast." Silence. Miguel froze. Angela didn't even blink. She just said, calmly, "If you're not going to help, move out the way." Travis chuckled, but moved on. But that moment stuck with me like a splinter. Facing the ugly. After the build wrapped for the day, we all gathered for sandwiches under a pop-up tent. I sat with Angela and Miguel. Miguel kept looking down at his food, picking at the crust of his sandwich. "You good?" I asked. He gave a half-smile. "Happens all the time. I used to get mad. Now I just let it slide." Angela looked at me. "You saw what he did." I nodded. "Then speak up next time," she said. Her tone wasn't angry, just honest. And that cut deeper than any insult ever could. Because she was right. I had frozen, like I always used to, letting someone else take the hit, because it felt safer to be silent than to stand. But silence is a choice. And in moments like that, silence sides with the wrong people. The confrontation. The next day, I came back. Not for Angela. Not even for Miguel. I came back for myself. And Travis was there again. This time, when he made another crack. This time at a woman named Rena for taking too long to paint a damn door. I didn't wait. I walked over, squared my shoulders, and said, loud and clear, "Why don't you shut up and lift something for once?" Everyone froze. Travis turned, slow, smirked. "Oh, look who found his balls." I stepped closer. "We're here to help. If you can't handle working with people who don't look like you, then maybe this ain't the right site for you." Susan stormed over before anything else could be said. "Pack it up, Travis," she snapped. "I warned you. One more comment, and you're off this project. That was your last one." He left. No fight. No words. Just walked off, got in his truck, and peeled out down the gravel. Angela's words. Later that day, Angela and I were sweeping the porch when she said, "So, you can speak." I laughed. "I guess I can." She looked at me, dead serious. Took guts. And it meant something. Not just to me. To Miguel. To everyone watching. I swallowed hard. It felt like I finally did something right. Angela nodded. "You did." Then, almost like a whisper, she added, "Now keep doing it." Small nails, big houses. Over the next few weeks, I kept coming back to the builds. I got better with a hammer. Learned how to measure twice, cut once. Learned how to listen, how to show up. But more than that, I saw what community really meant. People of every color, religion, and past, working side by side. Laughing, arguing, learning, sweating in the same sun for someone they didn't even know. And slowly, I felt something shift in me. Not guilt, not pity, but belonging. Real, honest-to-God belonging. I'll never forget the phone call. It was late, close to midnight. I was half asleep on my recliner, an old Western playing in the background. My phone buzzed, and I groggily picked it up, not recognizing the number. Jake. The voice was soft but strained. It was Angela. Something in her tone pulled me upright. It's my sister. She's at County General. They found a mess, she collapsed. I don't know what to do. That's all she said. But that's all I needed to hear. The hospital room. I got there in 20 minutes. I didn't even change out of my old hoodie. Just grabbed my keys and drove through the quiet streets like a man chasing a storm. Angela was sitting in the ICU waiting area, alone. Her eyes were red. She didn't look up when I walked in. I sat beside her in silence. After a few minutes, she spoke. They say it might be ovarian. She's only 38. Her voice cracked. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. I just sat there, present, because sometimes presence is louder than words. Tanya. Her sister's name was Tanya. The next day, I met her. She was lying in a hospital bed, wires hooked to her arms, face pale. But even in that state, there was this warmth to her. You must be Jake, she whispered, smiling weakly. Angela told me about you. Said you can't hammer a nail straight to save your life. I chuckled. She's not wrong. Over the next week, I started coming by every evening. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. Angela never asked. But I could see how the weight of everything was pressing on her chest like a stone. She was working double shifts, building during the day, sitting by Tanya's bed at night. So I brought food, ran errands. Sometimes just sat there while she slept in the plastic chair beside the bed. One night, Tanya looked at me and said, she won't let herself fall apart, you know. Yeah, I nodded. I see that. But she needs someone who'll catch the pieces if she ever does. That hit me like a nail to the heart. The street corner. One afternoon, I was picking up Angela's nephew, Jamal, from school as a favor. He was only 8, quiet kid, always carrying around a worn Spider-Man backpack. We were walking down 32nd in Maine, near the bus stop, when I saw it. A white guy, mid-40s, stumbling drunk out of a liquor store, yelling at a black teenager on a skateboard. Go back to Africa, he slurred. You punks don't belong here. The teen, maybe 16, just kept skating. Headphones in, trying to ignore him. But Jamal stopped. He stared, eyes wide. And I felt that familiar sickness rise in my chest. So I knelt down, looked Jamal in the eye. You see that man? He nodded. That's what ignorance looks like. You're stronger than him. Smarter. Kinder. Don't ever let hate decide who you are. He didn't say anything. Just looked at me for a long time, then took my hand. And I realized this was bigger than me. Bigger than Angela. Bigger than all of us. This was about generations. About legacy. Angela breaks. A few nights later, Angela finally cracked. We were sitting in her small kitchen, the overhead light flickering. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. I just cleaned up after Jamal, who was watching cartoons in the next room. She sat across from me, hands trembling. I'm so tired, she whispered. And then the tears came. Deep, shaking sobs, the kind you bury so far down, you forget they're there until they rip their way out. I moved around the table, knelt beside her, and held her. Not like a man trying to fix something. Like a man who knew some things can't be fixed, only carried, together. A small gesture. 2 days later, I drove down to a small flower shop on Ashwood and picked up a bouquet. Yellow lilies, Tanya's favorite, apparently. I brought them to the hospital. Tanya lit up the moment she saw them. They're for both of you, I said. For fighting. For not quitting. Angela smiled, tired but grateful. As I turned to leave, Tanya called out, Jake. I turned. Whatever you think you were before, you're not that anymore. I didn't answer. I just nodded. Because I think I finally believed it, too. What she said to the pastor. A week later, Tanya passed the biopsy. The tumor was benign. The whole family celebrated like it was Christmas in July. And that Sunday, Angela brought me to her church. It was mostly black folks, older generations, gospel choir that could raise the roof. I felt out of place at first, like a guest in someone else's home. But during the sermon, Angela stood up and asked to speak. She talked about the build, about Tanya, about me, and then she said something I'll never forget. Sometimes, God sends you people who look nothing like you to remind you what humanity looks like. Jake didn't come to save us. He came to stand with us. And that made all the difference. There wasn't a dry eye in the place. Especially mine. It was supposed to be a celebration. The roof was finally up. Windows framed. Drywall hung. We stood outside the house on Clover Street, and the team cheered as Angela hammered in the last nail on the front porch railing. "I've never built anything before," she laughed, sweat dripping down her neck. "But this is ours." Everyone clapped. Kids ran through the yard. Neighbors stopped to take photos. And me? I stood silent, staring at the structure, heart thudding like a jackhammer. Because I knew that house. Not just the frame, not just the address. I knew that house the way a ghost knows the walls it haunts. A ghost from the past. The next morning, I drove back to Clover Street before sunrise. Alone. I walked around the house slowly, touched the porch beam, ran my fingers along the window frame. And there, beneath the paint on the back wall, I saw it, still faintly scratched into the wood. A+M, Forever 1992. The initials hit like a brick. Amanda. My ex-wife. This used to be my house. Before prison. Before everything fell apart, this was where I lived. Amanda and I bought this place fresh out of high school. Tiny mortgage. Big dreams. We only lived there 2 years. 2 years before I started using. Before I started disappearing at night. Before I started stealing from my own home. I remember the night she left. I came home to a half-empty living room. No note. No yelling. Just absence. And silence. The kind that crushes your lungs. I didn't see her again. I never came back here. Until now. The reveal. I didn't tell Angela. Not at first. I kept helping. Painting walls. Fixing cabinets. Pretending like this wasn't unraveling my soul one nail at a time. But it was. Every hallway echoed with memories I'd buried. One night, we were standing in what would be the future nursery. Angela was painting stars on the ceiling for her nephew. "I think we'll call this room Hope," she said with a smile. And I broke. I dropped the brush. Turned away. She noticed. "What is it?" And I told her. All of it. Her reaction. Angela didn't say anything for a while. She just stared at me. Then finally, "This is your house?" "It was," I said. "A long time ago." She crossed her arms. "So, you left it. Walked away." "I didn't walk," I said bitterly. "I destroyed everything." Angela didn't soften. "Not at first. You should have told me." "I was ashamed," I whispered. Then she sighed. "Jake, you helped us build this from the ground up. Even if you didn't know it at first. Maybe that's not a coincidence. Not mine anymore." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Amanda. Where she might be now. Whether she ever forgave me. Whether she still thought about those initials in the back. The next morning, I came to the site early again. Sat on the porch. And I wrote a letter. I didn't know where she lived. I had no address. But I wrote it anyway. "Dear Amanda," I began. "I helped build our house again. But not for us. For something bigger. For someone better. I'm sorry I was the storm that tore you apart. But maybe, through this house, I finally found how to be the man I couldn't be for you." I left it in the wall, behind the insulation, sealed in a mason jar. Maybe one day someone would find it. Maybe no one would. But I had to let it go. The dedication. On opening day, people came from all over the city. Angela gave a speech in front of the crowd. She talked about family, about faith, about second chances. And then she handed me the microphone. My palms were sweating. "I don't usually speak in front of people," I began. "But I want to say something. Not about the house, but about what this house means." I looked at the front door. This place used to be mine. A long time ago. I lost it, because I lost myself. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Angela met my eyes strong, calm. But someone gave me a second chance. Not by giving me this house back, but by letting me build it for someone else. And through that, I found something I didn't think I ever deserved again. I looked down. Grace. Silence. Then applause. Not the loud, polite kind. The kind that feels like forgiveness. Later that night, Angela found me sitting on the porch again, alone. "You did good," she said. I nodded. I think I can breathe again." She smiled. "You're not the man who left this house, Jake. You're the one who rebuilt it." It had been 3 months since Angela moved into the house on Clover Street. The front yard now had grass. There were toys on the porch. A wind chime by the window. And laughter. Laughter that didn't belong to me. But I didn't mind. A job offer. One Friday afternoon, I was restocking nails at the shelter's tool shed when Pastor Reeves walked in. "You got a minute, Jake?" I wiped my hands and nodded. He handed me a folder. Inside, an offer. Habitat for Humanity, full-time crew leader. Paid. Benefits. A future. I stared at the papers like they were written in a language I'd forgotten how to speak. You're serious? You've earned it. Why me? Reeves smiled. Because you know what it's like to lose everything and still show up. Angela's letter. That night, I stopped by the house. Angela was rocking her nephew on the porch. We didn't talk much. Just watched the sun slide down behind the trees. Before I left, she handed me a small envelope. For when you get home. I opened it sitting on my mattress. It was a letter. Jake, I want you to know something. Before all this, I didn't trust white people. I didn't trust a lot of people, really. Too many looks. Too many stares. Too many times being followed in stores, ignored in waiting rooms, told, you speak so well, like it was a miracle. But then you showed up. Quiet. Kind. Real. And you stayed. You stayed when things got uncomfortable. You told me the truth about your past. And then you kept building. I never thought I'd say this, but you changed the way I see people like you. You reminded me that it's not about skin. It's about soul. Thank you, Angela. I cried. I sat there for a long time. Letter in one hand, coffee in the other. And I cried. Not because I was sad. Not because I was guilty. But because, for the first time in decades, I felt seen. Not as an ex-con, or a white man, or a broken piece of yesterday, but as Jake. Just Jake. The visitor. A week later, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. It was Amanda. Can we talk? We met at a diner just off the freeway. She looked older, sure. But her eyes? Still the same fire. She ordered black coffee. I couldn't stop fidgeting. I heard you're working with Habitat now, she said. Yeah. And you build a house. Helped? You buried a letter in the wall. I froze. How? I found it, she said quietly. My sister lives 2 houses down. Her son helped frame the kitchen. She saw the initials. Showed me. I went to see the house. Oh. Amanda looked at me carefully. I read your words. She reached across the table. I forgive you. Letting go. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. But something inside me unclenched. Years of shame, guilt, failure, like an anchor finally cut loose. I don't want anything, I said. I just wanted to tell you I was sorry. Amanda nodded. Sometimes that's enough. And for once, it felt like it was. A door that stays open. Angela's porch light was on when I stopped by the next day. Her nephew waved from the window. She opened the door, holding a mug of tea. You look like you've seen a ghost, she smiled. Maybe I did. I held up a copy of the job contract. Looks like I'll be building more than just one house. Angela grinned wide. About time. I looked around, the yard, the porch, the window glowing warm behind her. You know what's funny? I said. What? This house used to be where everything ended for me. Angela tilted her head. And now? I looked at her. Now calm. Now whole. Now it's where everything begins. She stepped aside. And for the first time in my life, I walked through a door that stayed open. Epilogue, a message for you. If you're watching or listening to this, maybe you've been where I was. Maybe you've made mistakes you can't take back. Or maybe you've judged people because of their skin, their past, their story. But people can change. Racism can be unlearned. Compassion can be chosen. And second chances? They're built, one nail, one truth, one handshake at a time. This is Jake Williams. And I'm just a guy who messed up, but didn't give up. Neither should you.